In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build your very first lead list with Clay so that you can generate thousands of leads basically on autopilot without using Clay credits. And I'm going to show you step by step on how to do this. I'm going to do a full walkthrough of building a list from scratch, how you enrich it with AI, how you find email addresses, how you find decision makers, and then how you would connect it to your sending software. And I'm going to do all that without using Clay credits, so you can get a step-by-step on how to do this, right? So the first thing we want to do, actually one thing that I want to mention as well, is we are now certified Clay experts. So we've built hundreds of tables for multiple clients across multiple industries. So if you do need help with Clay or getting your head around it, then feel free to book in a consultation or feel free to book in a call to see how we could install an automated outbound system into your business that leverages Clay and AI. Now, in terms of getting started, when you first log in, and this is going to be completely for beginners, by the way, when you first log in, you're going to see this dashboard and you're going to be a little bit overwhelmed on what to do. Now, these are all the folders that we've obviously created, but the first thing you want to do is you want to create what's called a workbook. Now, a workbook is different to a table. A table is just singular. A workbook, think of it like a Google Sheet where you have multiple tabs at the bottom. It just allows you to organize things a little bit better. So we're going to book in here and build a workbook from scratch. Now, you have a couple of different templates that you can use if you want to find businesses from Google Maps. I have a separate video on actually how to do that in an efficient way. We have find companies from lookalikes and so on and so forth. But usually we will start with blank workbooks. So if we click in here and click blank workbook, then we can just rename this and retitle it demo for YouTube, for example, right? And the lead list I'm going to build today is going to be of software companies based in the UK that are between a certain range, and we're going to be writing copy as well as using and leveraging AI to build personalization into that campaign. And I'm going to go show you step by step on how I build this. So the first thing we want to do when we're at this page here is we have multiple options, and this is basically our initial data source, right? So usually we will use data sources like Sales Navigator or Apollo. Clay also has its own data source as well, where we can import data or we can create our initial list based on criteria, just like we would on Apollo or Sales Navigator or anything else. Now, you can start by creating the list on Apollo or Sales Nav or Crunchbase or anything like that, exporting that and then importing that list into Clay to be able to then enrich it and do all kinds of things that you wouldn't be able to do on those platforms. Or you can start building list from Clay itself. So I'm going to show you here how you can build the list from Clay itself. Now, the options that you have here are find people. So this is where we'll find decision makers or the people that you want to target. We can either start with find companies, where now we have a list of companies and then we'll have to find the people at those companies. Find local businesses, update your CRM, import from CSV, use a template, or you have multiple options here as well, which basically allows you to monitor a webhook, so you can pull in data from, for example, we might actually monitor Instantly campaign and any positive responses. We can pull them in here into a webhook. We can enrich them for more information and so on and so forth. But that's a little bit more advanced, so I won't be going into that in this video. But there are so many different things that you can do here. You can find jobs. We can find by tech stack. We can find by Google search. There are so many different ways to pull in data. Another really popular one here that we use a lot is import data from Appify. So this basically allows us to import and pull in data from Appify, which is a web scraper. For example, we could scrape someone's followers on LinkedIn. We could scrape someone's followers on Instagram, on TikTok. We could scrape Google Jobs. There are so many different ways that we can leverage Appify, and then that would pull in into Clay, where we then enrich it within Clay. And there's a whole bunch more here as well. So anyways, we're going to start with find people because it's usually the simplest way to start and it's very basic. So here, for example, we could build a list, right? So we're going to start with company attributes. So this is obviously the company filters that we're going to be using. Now, for this example, I'm going to just target 11 to 50 companies that have 11 to 50. Now, if you're wondering where is this data source from, it is mostly pulling from LinkedIn. Most general databases will pull most of their data from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the original source, basically. It obviously has the largest data set as a platform. Most databases like Apollo and so on will usually pull from LinkedIn. So just as an FYI, in case you're wondering, where is this data from? Now, we also have include one or more industries, so we can include multiple industries here. So in this case, I'm just going to put in software development, and I'm going to put in technology. right? Technology, information, and internet. We can also exclude industries, but if you're including industries, it won't import or pull in the industries that are outside of that. Now we can also include description keywords and exclude description keywords. So description keywords are essentially on the LinkedIn about section, right, for the company. So if we go to LinkedIn, right, and we go to, for example, our company here, Leadify, you can see that in our description, we install AI sales systems into your company that 10x sales opportunities, right? That's our description in the about section, essentially. So this is actually pulling the about section on LinkedIn into claim, right? So you're looking for specific keywords that will match what your ideal customer might put in their LinkedIn bio. And then we can also exclude keywords as well. So for example, if pulling a list of software companies, we might put SaaS, software platform, automation, automate, tool or B2B tool, fintech, and then some other things that we might want to remove would be any like media outlets. There might be something that says like tech, or software news, right? It would pick up the word software, but it would also pick up the word news. We don't want that. So we want to remove, for example, news. We want to remove anything that's like a recruitment company, right? So we'd have to put in like a couple of different keywords here, recruitment and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, if you include the industries, it's less likely that these will come up, but sometimes it's just good to have a bit of a fail-safe on that side of things. Another one is like venture capital, right? Or we could have asset or portfolio, right? Just anything that would indicate that it is potential. Like there might be an investment firm that categorizes themselves as technology company, but they're actually an investment firm. We don't want to reach out to an investment firm. So we're going to do everything that we can with the filters that we can here to then remove those. We can also, and I'll show you this later on in the table, filter things using AI, right? So let's just do investment and then capital, investor, VC, fund, etc. Right? Cool. So now that we've got that and we've got potentially a list of software companies, I'm going to just remove lead generation and agency and consulting. Actually, these usually come up consultancy, consultant, right? Cool. So now we're on job titles. So here is where we can include the seniority level. So usually we want to reach out to like the owner and C-suite, or obviously if you want to reach out to like a manager or a head of or so on and so forth, you can select any of them. You can select multiple, you can select one, or you don't have to select any. Now we can also look at job functions. So this is basically anything that, business development function. So anyone that is in that basically department and so on, right? And we've got multiple to choose from here, like finance, sales, and so on. Usually what we'll do is we'll put the level and then we'll also include the job titles. So for this example, I want to reach out to the founders and I also want to reach out to the CEO, right? Cool. And we also want to exclude anything like the assistant or the PA or something, admin, assistant, I misspelled that. Cool. And then we also want to, this you can toggle and just depends on what results that you get, but we can do an exact keyword match or it can basically find for similar things. So it says by default inputs include levels, include job titles, match similar job titles across languages, e.g. software developer engineer matches software engineer, right? So you kind of get the gist there basically. You can either have a more precise list or you can have a bit more open list. We can also filter by experience. So we might want founders that have been at the role and they've had the company for, at least like 24 months or something. And you can do maximum, minimum. You can also do a minimum number of experiences. So either they're a first-time founder or maybe they're like, a fifth-time founder and so on. We can also put in their bio, so what they might have in their headline. We can put in their location. So in this case, I'm just going to do United Kingdom. We can also exclude companies and so on and so forth. One other really cool thing here is we can do a minimum number of connections. So they should be, for example, in this case, we want to be active on LinkedIn. So maybe they have like 1,000 followers and they have a minimum of 500 connections. That means it's so much more likely that they're going to be active on LinkedIn. And you might want to do that if you're doing LinkedIn outreach, so you get a better reply rate, for example. That's one case. All right. Then down here, you can also limit your number of results and so on. But I'm just going to show you this as an example. So let's go preview people. So we now have a list here and you can see how many results we have, 242, right? Now you might need to refine this list where maybe you add in more keywords. This might take a little bit of trial and error, and that's totally fine. What we'll usually do is I will just click into some of these profiles and I will just double check that these are kind of like right fit type of clients, right? And you might look through and you might be like, okay, cool. Yeah, that works. That doesn't work, and so on. We can click on the companies and be like, cool, this is generally, these are 9 out of 10 of them are software companies, or it depends on how accurate we want to be, because we can do more filtration later on, which I will show you how to do. So for example, these seem absolutely fine, iGaming sector, et cetera, right? This is, again, just a sample list, but you get the point, right? And all of these people most likely would be somewhat active on LinkedIn. So you can see like 1 week ago they posted or reposted and so on. Because these people have, I put in that filter that they're going to have at least 1,000 followers, you can see that these people are actually somewhat active on LinkedIn. So if you're happy with that list and you're happy with this, the results generated, then import it into a new table. If you're not happy with it, you can then change around some of the things, whether that's include, exclude certain keywords and so on and so forth. There might be a little bit of trial and error that you might need to do here, but it can help to just kind of, just get a sense and get a gauge by clicking on the profiles and just making sure. You only get a preview of 50. So I would just recommend maybe opening up 10 to 20 profiles, manually checking them. If you're happy with them, import. If you're not, then go back and maybe change some of the filtering around. Right. So what I would do next, import to new table. So continue for free. What I would do, actually, just a very quick note on here, to save on Clay credits, I'm going to show you how you can actually use different tools to be able to do that without using Clay credits. If you click on any of those things, those options, it will use Clay credits, which might burn your account or burn your credits that you're using. So I will show you a different way of how you can do this. All right, so the leads are now being imported. I'm just going to refresh it because it says that we've only got 50 rows when we have, I think, should have about 250. Yeah, so 240. Right, cool. So we've got this list. We don't know what copy we're going to be using. I'm going to write that out actually live with you. And now we obviously want to find their email addresses. And then we want to also filter if these are actually B2B companies in this case and in this demo, if they're B2B companies or not. We don't want to be reaching out to B2C companies. Obviously, you might not necessarily need to do this step, but it's just an example. And then we're going to add in a couple of bits of personalization using AI. I'm going to show you how I work through that part and that process as well. So the data that we've got to work with is the company name, people's first name, their job title, their location, their company domain, and their LinkedIn profile. Now, it automatically deduplicates the LinkedIn profile. So sometimes you might get 250 results in the previous where you had the search filter criteria, but because of deduplication, it might remove any duplicates that you get, for example, within the LinkedIn profile. So you might have 2 LinkedIn profiles that will remove that, and then you might have a slightly smaller list, but that's just an example. So the next thing we want to do, and we usually don't do anything until we found someone valid email address. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to go to add enrichment up here in the top right, and we want to put in work email, right? Now, if you're working or targeting enterprises, this might be a better waterfall to use, but if you're targeting SMBs, which we are in this case, it might be better to use this one here. So you would click on this waterfall, and the next thing that you want to do is now you have all of these different data providers. So these are different individual data providers that essentially have access to finding email addresses and verifying email addresses. However, right now, with the way that it's currently set up, if you were to click save and run, you would use Clay credits. So you can see here 1 per row, 2 per row, 2 per row, 2 per row, and so on, right? So what happens is if you find the email with Lead Magic, without using your own software subscription or API key, which I'll show you how to do in a second, it will cost you 1 credit. So if it finds the email with Lead Magic. If it doesn't find it with Lead Magic, but then it finds it with Hunter, for example, it will cost you 2 credits. It will not bill you and won't charge you if it doesn't find the email address, right? Now, the one that we recommend and what we actually use internally, we use Lead Magic or Prospeo. So usually what we do with this list, you can save it as a template as well, but I'm going to show you from scratch. We can then just delete these. Cool. So now that we've got these, if I just click into each one of them, you'll be able to see what I mean. So it says select Lead Magic account. Now you've got 2 options. If you've got a fresh account, which most of you watching will most likely have a fresh account, you will be under this Clay Manage Lead Magic account. Now that basically just means that Clay has its API key connected to its subscription with Lead Magic. And so if you use this option, you will be charged 1 credit. However, if you use the Leadify API key, or not the Leadify one, sorry. If you use your own API key, you can name it whatever you want, and you can add an account here. If you use that, you won't be charged one Clay credit, but you will be charged based on the subscription that you have. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because if you are using something over and over again, so for example, finding and validating email addresses, it is pretty likely that you're going to be using the same providers over and over again. It is much more cost efficient to get a separate subscription to, for example, Lead Magic and Prospio than to use Clay credits. If we were to use Clay credits and you're on the lowest tier account, you would only be able to find 2,000 email addresses for $149, right? And then you wouldn't be able to do anything else with Clay if you wanted to use Clay's credits to enrich things. However, if you used your own subscription, I know that Lead Magic has a plan for $99 for 10,000 credits. So you'd now be able to find 10,000 emails for $99, right? And obviously that gets added on top of your Clay subscription. So it's $149, for example, for Clay, and then $99 on top. But now you're able to find so many more, and you actually don't need to use any Clay credits at all to find email addresses, right? So Clay is just that tool that allows you to connect all of these things without actually using credits. So we actually don't use that many credits ourselves. We actually have a lower plan as of right now. We might upgrade it, but we have a lower plan because we actually use most API keys and subscriptions. We have our separate subscriptions because we use those things over and over again. So we don't get charged Clay credits, but instead we have those subscriptions. Again, if you're using it over and over again, it is much cheaper long-term to do so. One very quick example that I also want to outline and showcase here is one of the functionalities of Clay is that or integrations that it has is it enables you to do Google searches, right? So this is slightly anecdotal, but I think it's important just to kind of hammer home the point. It allows you to do Google searches. Now, with Google searches, you are charged 1 credit for every search that you do. Now, if you wanted to run 10,000 searches on a lead list, that would cost you 10,000 credits. Or if you wanted to run 50,000 searches on a list of 50,000, that would cost you 50,000 credits. Now, if you were to pay for Clay to do that, you would need the $800 per month subscription. However, if you were to use a tool, for example, like serpa.dev, which is a scraper or a Google search API, this only costs you $50, but you get 50,000 search results. So there's a big difference there. If you were to pay Clay and use Clay credits to do it, that would cost you $800 to get 50,000 searches. If you were to use this and get 50,000 searches, it would cost you $50. So there's a big, huge difference between the two things. And hopefully that just helps understand if you use something over and over again, it is usually much cheaper to use the separate software. And just think of it like little bolt-ons to the initial. The Clay is the foundation, and you're able to bolt all of these integrations on top of it to make your life easier and cheaper long-term than just using Clay credits. So hopefully that makes sense and you understand that. Right. So in this case, obviously we have our API key connected. So if I come out of here, and once you connect your API key, which is relatively simple to do, so you would quite literally just come into this section here, you would go on add account, and then you would go to the software, you'd copy your API key, and then you would name your connection whatever you wanted to do, and you would just set it as the default. So anytime you use a waterfall or anytime you try and find an email address, it's going to use your API key as a default. So, and ours already obviously connected. So this 1 row or 2 rows, it's not going to use them. If we just click into it and you double check here, that's how you know what is going to be used, whether that's the Clay credits or your API key. Right. So what we need to now do is we need to map the inputs. So these two tools are essentially going to try and find email addresses. So we need to just map, and they do this by finding using the full name and the company domain, and then it will do permutations of it, and then it will try and find this is the valid email address, or this is the email address that we think it is. We also want to add a validation provider, and the one that we also recommend is Lead Magic as well for this. And they do a really great job. We have a really low bounce rate with them of about 1 to 2%. And you want to make sure that only mark safe to send emails as valid, right? So we tick this on. Cool. Now that we've got this set up, we are now using what's called an email waterfall. So basically it will try Lead Magic first. If it doesn't find the email with Lead Magic, it will then try Prospio. And if it doesn't find it with Prospio, then it hasn't found the email address. Now you can add more to here, right? And Clay's initial waterfall, as you saw, was like 7 or 8 providers. So it's basically trying each one of these companies. If Prospero doesn't have it, then it will try the next provider. If that doesn't have it, it'll try the next provider, and so on and so forth. So I hope that makes sense. Now, what we want to do next is we usually will just want to save and run 10 rows just so we can kind of get a gauge and see sort of what the email find rate is, right? Because this is also an important metric to really understand, is if you've got a list, say of 1,000 or 2,000, you want to understand how many emails am I going to be able to find, right? And usually out of 10, out of 50, you can get a certain gauge or percentage of the amount of emails that you're going to find out of a larger list. So here, for example, I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we found about 50%. So we might have 50% of these emails. Now, one thing to quickly note is you see how this one has a tick, but then it's got an empty, it's empty here. It is because it found the email, but the email wasn't validated. So because it wasn't validated, it wasn't added into this column. This column is only for the valid emails. So it might find the email, but may not validate the email, in which case you don't want to send to those because that will give you a higher bounce rate, which will cause issues with deliverability. So now that we've got this initial list of emails, I'll run the whole column later, but I just want to show you a couple of things. So next thing we want to do is we want to actually categorize. So again, you can take multiple different options here. You could just take this and push it into your sending tool, but I want to show you a little bit more, something just a little bit more that you can then actually tangibly use. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go to add enrichment, and we are going to filter for B2B companies. So we want to find B2B companies from this list, and we want to make sure that the companies that we're reaching out to are B2B companies. We don't want to be reaching out to companies that are B2C. So how do we do this, right? Normally, the old way would be to go into each individual website and try and understand and read the blurb and understand, is this a B2B company or is this a B2C company? All right, that would take you ages and manpower and so on and so forth. Now we can get AI to do this pretty much automatically. So we're going to do 2-step here. The first step that we're going to do is go to add enrichment and click use AI. Now we already have lots of templates, but if you need help, you can click help me, or you can browse the templates that are available across all Clay users. But I'm just going to show you an example here, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually scrape the summary, and this is my workflow, what works for us, but feel free to play around with this. That's why Clay is called like creative, because you can play around with it a little bit. So for example here, I'm going to just scrape the company website and I'm going to apply template. Right now we're using GPT-4 Mini, and again, we can connect our API key so that we don't use Clay credits to be able to enrich the list. Now, if you look at the models here, basically these models down here, you can connect your API key. These are Clay native models, which means Clay has built them themselves to be a better version of their Clayagent function, which is essentially an AI agent that is able to do research on your behalf, which is what we'll be using here. But normally we just use GPT-4 Mini for most things, right? So you can see the prompt here. I'd like to visit the website and output a summary, 250 words, basically just asking it, go onto the website, output a summary of what this company does so that we can understand that. Now I'm going to show you one cool thing here, which is called conditional formulas. So this is going to help you A, save Clay credits, and B, just be a bit more organized with your lists. So you see this section where it says use AI. We're going to click on that and we're going to say only run if, and then work email is not empty, right? So this is basically saying your job is to only run this particular column if work email is not empty. So it tells you here, column will run, yes, no, etc. Right, and we're going to save, and we're going to run 10 rows. So now only the ones that have email addresses are going to run, and it's going to save you credits, because what's the point in running if they have no email address that you can reach out to? There's no point. It's not that it's going to save you credits, it's going to just save you in general, like using OpenAI. Yeah, it's going to save you quite a bit for doing it like this. So you can see here now it's starting to output the company summary. So we have response, this company is rapidly growing, specialized in custom website mobile application development for small businesses, startups and scale-ups, right? So this isn't actually technically a software company, it's a development company. So this might potentially be a step that we want to add into the workflow. But the first thing we want to do is we want to try and find and segment the B2B companies. So we want to make sure that these are B2Bs first. So again, go add enrichment. Now that we've got the AI summaries, click use AI. And again, you can write your own prompt, or you can just copy the prompts that I'm using here. So I'm going to type in B2B because we have a prompt that's B2B. So we take the company description, which is here. So we're going to map this column. It's basically telling AI, look at this column or look at this cell, read this cell, and then output based on this cell. right? So this doesn't really matter too much. Just for the template, just ignore this little section here. Cool. So I'm just going to remove this, and this is just based on the template prompt. So review this company and classify it as B2B or no fit. All right. So it's basically what it's doing. It's going to read and analyze the description and copy in here, or the summary, and then it's going to tell us whether this is a B2B or it's not a fit. And if it's B2B, then it's good. If it's not a fit, then obviously we won't continue with it. All right. And then we would go save and run 10 rows. All right, cool. So we can now see B2B, B2B, no fit, no fit, no fit. Now, in this, you want to make sure that you're manually, my recommendation is always to run 10 to 50, and then manually check these so that you can see if AI is correct or not. Once you understand that it's correct at least 95% of the time, then run it for the entire list, but only until you've manually checked it. That's going to take me a little bit of time. So I'm just going to show you for demonstration purposes to kind of like, this process. So if we just click in here, we can also do a quick way of checking. So content creator, the company aims to enhance creativity, community engagement by providing decentralized space for creators, investors, and audiences to connect. Okay, interesting. So this is correct. So from what it seems, this is for consumers, so B2C. The queued appears to be is not currently accessible. Okay, interesting. So there's also a good way of finding websites that don't work, but sometimes AI does a bad job. So here's a perfect example. AI has done a bad job. So we need to go in and we need to correct it because sometimes it doesn't work. So there's a little bit of tinkering that you need to do and a little bit of stuff that you need to kind of figure out on how to fix it. And then once you fixed it, then you can kind of run the entire thing. So in this case, I might troubleshoot. Okay, interesting. So I'm going to rerun this and try again because sometimes it just takes rerunning it. And again, this is why you might want to do a bit of a check first, a manual check to see if it's working or not. Cool. Limited information, detailed analysis don't provide. Interesting. Okay, cool. So if we click on the website, your solution for securing software. Interesting. It seems like a pretty full website, but for some reason it's not loading on AI. So here, like I said, we might need to probably troubleshoot this a little bit. So we have a second way of trying to find this information without using AI that might also be like a bit of a failsafe, because sometimes AI can just input or output, the wrong thing. So we want to have something in place to kind of catch that in case it does a bad job. So one of the ways that we do this is we go to add enrichment, and we can go to something like ZenRose, which is a scraping tool, which will essentially scrape the URL of the company website. So it scrapes the company website and just outputs the body text, which is a little bit different from Clagent. Clagent is an AI agent that goes onto the website and then analyzes the text and outputs a summary based on the prompt I've given it. ZenRose is a scraper, like an actual scraper. It just scrapes the website. So a little bit different. So what I might do here is I'm just going to input the URL that I want it to scrape, which is the company domain. And then I'm also going to tell it only run if the email is not empty. So again, doing a conditional formula, so it only runs if this is empty. Output is correct. Cool. And then I'm going to go save and run 10 rows. Now, again, with ZenRose, we use it quite a lot. So we have our own API key. However, if you only use it here and there, it's going to cost you 1 clay credit per result that's generated. So just as an FYI. Right. So you can see here, scrape successful. And what it has done is, if I open this up, so you have links, you've got the title of the website, you've got the body text. So this basically literally just scraped the entirety of the website homepage, phone numbers, social links, keywords, so on and so forth, right? So this is what we want to be reading. This is what we want AI to analyze, right? And I'm showing you this as a separate method to see if sometimes Clagent can be wrong or sometimes AI can be wrong. You can either tweak the prompt and play around with that. But for this demonstration, I'm showing you a different way of doing it to be able to classify these businesses. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to actually use the same prompt that we have here, and I'm going to just change the input. So company description input. And go company summary. So not company summary, going to go ZenRose scrape, and I'm going to map it to the body text, right? Click that there. And then now I'm just going to run this for 10 rows and see how this performs. Cool. So this is now queued, and we're just going to do a test run to see what it looks like. Right. So we've got no fit. That's quite interesting. Enable JavaScript to run this app. Right. Let's see. Okay, cool. So some websites, this is why Clayagent wasn't working, and this is also why it's quite important to just troubleshoot and understand what this looks like. So you can see here that it says you need to enable JavaScript to run this app. So basically this is saying that you cannot scrape the website with its current form. This is not going to happen on all websites. It's very rare, but it does happen every now and again. So I thought it'd be good to include here. So if you wanted to shift this, then you could just come down to here and you could go render JavaScript, or you could put premium proxy as well. Now I'm not going to do that because I kind of just for the sake of length of this whole thing, but you can kind of get a gauge here. Now we've got B2B company, B2E, and then we've got no fit, right? So these two companies, from what I can see, are B2B companies, right? So we've got B2B Wise, Cloudy Bytes, right? So if you click on the website here, we can see, okay, cool. This is a website mobile application development company, right? So mobile development company, an app development company, and so on. We don't actually want to be targeting these kinds of people, or when I say these kinds of people, these kinds of businesses. So in this particular case, we want to be targeting specific software companies. So what I would have done here is actually remove that from the initial keyword list when I was building the initial data set. However, because we've already got the data in here, we now can filter it out using AI or scraping the website. Now check out B2B Wise just to see what kind of company this is. Yeah, so training, software, and support, right? So this is a software company, right? Which is perfect. That's what we want. So what I will now do is show you another way to be able to filter your list. And this is quite a simple way. So here we can click on add column and go to formula. And we can go to if, and then we can map it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it if the website contains any keywords such as development, developer, and so on, app development, etc., we don't want it to be output, or we want like a cross against that basically. And if it doesn't contain that, then that's a good company. So if contains developer or development or app development or software development or custom software, then output X. If it does not, then output fit. Or not fit, I'm going to put SAS. Cool. Right, so yeah, so perfect. So now it's picked up that this has the keyword like that, right? If is empty, then keep output blank. And we can generate again because we don't want it to fill with the other rows, and it's doing it again now. So sometimes it's a little bit laggy. Cool. So you can see if I just refresh it, now it's got SaaS. So this is a software company, this is a software company, and then this is X, right? So again, you can go into more detail with this, but for the sake of the whole tutorial not being like incredibly long, I just want to show you how to kind of filter these kinds of companies out, or one way of doing it. So I've shown you a couple of different ways. Now what I'm going to show, just give it a second to update. Okay, cool. So these are obviously no fits, and so here we've got the main company, which is SaaS, right? So I'm just going to be focusing on this company here as our example. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, just imagine we've run this for the whole list, and we've got a full list here of software companies, and we know that they're a good fit because we've done the filtration process. What we're now going to do is do a little bit of AI personalization. Now, I'm going to show you a really simple way of doing this, and this basically just involves going onto their website and pulling a first line from there, for example. Now, this could be a case study. This could be all sorts of different things. All right. So if we go over to add enrichment and we go over to use AI, we can then add in another prompt. And there are prompts here that allow you to pull the case study. So we're going to try and pull the case study from a website. So find case study. So scrape case study from site. I'm just going to use this one. Right. So we've got the company domain. So you just map the company domain. So it's going to go to the website, visit the URL, and then try and find a case study. Now, One thing to note here, you want to just make sure that this is your API key again is connected, so you're not using Clay credits, because OpenAI, if you use directly their API key, it's much, much, much cheaper, like way cheaper. We probably spend maybe $200 to $300 a month, but we manage 20, 25 clients with that, which is incredibly cheap. If we were to do that with Clay credits, that would cost us thousands of dollars. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to run a conditional formula that basically says only run if, and then we're going to map the two fields, contains SaaS and contains B2B. So basically saying if this column here, which is the column that we had to understand if they were a developer or not, like a software development company or not, contains, so if this column contains SaaS, then it's good, but it has to also, this column where we defined if they were a B2B company or not, contains B2B, then it will run. Otherwise, don't run. Cool. So now you can see here, this is the only column that will run because this one is an X. This says SaaS. However, this says no fit. So if this says SaaS and no fit, then that's kind of how it would go about. Now, by all means, you could probably tidy this up. I could have done a little bit better job, but I'm just showing you for the sake that there are steps that you can do here to filter out companies that you don't want to target. And this is how you can create more targeted lists. So we can go output is correct. And then we can basically go same run 10 rows. Now, obviously, we're only going to get one result. So I'm going to run some more rows here just to kind of show you what this would look like on a bit of a larger scale. So we now can see that we've generated a result here. Now, of course, this is going to run for the rest of the columns and so on. But again, I'm just going to show you with this specific result. So you can see that it's generated Protea chemicals for this particular company. Now, if we click on here and we click around on their website and we go to the About section, click on Our Clients, you can actually see here Protea chemicals, right? So it's done a pretty cool job of basically finding the case study on their website. And now we're going to use that in our outreach, right? So again, you can see that all of this is kind of running, and this is running for like 50 rows. So you can get a bit more of an idea or an example of what it might look like. But again, once you've built it out initially, you can then run it for all of the rows, and you can now, it will basically spit out a really personalized email based on all of these criteria. So now you're only reaching out to B2B and their actual software companies and not like development companies or anything like that. So you've got a targeted list. You've also got case study to make it relevant and personalized. And then you're using that in your copy, all completely automatic. So what I would now do is 2 more steps before we then go to the final step, which is pushing the emails into the campaign and getting the copy ready. So the first thing that we want to do is sometimes the companies, right? For example, here, company XYZ, that's incorrect. Sometimes it's going to say none found and so on and so forth. So what we want to do here is put in a bit of a fail-safe, but also we want to clean this up. So we would go to add enrichment, because sometimes it's going to output the company and the company name is just not going to look right. It's going to be unformatted. It's just not going to look right. And we obviously are going to use the company name in our outreach. So we want to make sure that the company name looks correct. So here's how we do it. And we can do this. This is just, I'm going to show you one with the company name, but this can apply to both the company name that we're reaching out to here, right? So Cloudy Bytes, et cetera, et cetera. We obviously don't want to reach out to and say in the email, Neurovant AI Limited, or, put in these dash or anything like that. Like that would look weird. So we want to format that. And we also want to format the case study. And here's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to just show you one step to do it. But it's the same step, whether it's for the case study or for the company name. So again, we go to add enrichment. We click on use AI. And we're going to click on browse templates. And we're going to go to company name. And again, all of these AI prompts, these are our AI prompts that we use, but feel free at any time to pause the video and just double check and see what they look like. You can also create these AI prompts yourself. And I'm going to create a separate video using Claude on how you can actually do that. But again, if you want to pause the video, you can see it like here, right? If you want to pause it and see how to do this, and we would just click apply template. But what we're doing here is just mapping the company name, apply template. And then we'll basically just go only run if, and then we're going to use the same. We're only going to run it if is SaaS and company classification is B2B, right? So this is only going to run if it's a right fit company. So again, you're not wasting whether it's credits or OpenAI like tokens when you're running this. So we're going to run 10 rows. And in this case, like the company is B2Ys, so it might just be the same, B2Ys, right? And that's fine. I'm going to show you actually a separate example just so you can kind of see what this might look like. Because some of these companies like Impulse Logic here, you see how it's like decapitalized the whole thing so it doesn't look weird. Let's see, this one maybe. Yeah, Smart ISO, instead of limited, it's removed the limited, right? So it's just doing a job of basically formatting the company names so that when you use them in your outreach and you say, hey, I feel like we could help company name, it's not looking weird, right? Which is an important point. Now, what I would also do here is I would also add this to the case study company. But again, it's just the same process. You would just map the case study company instead of the company name. So next we want to do, final step, is we want to add the copy and we want to double check what this actually looks like in our emails. So we're going to go to actions. We're going to go to add to column and we're going to go to message. And then we're going to put in the message. So here we can type out, hi, first name, saw that you recently worked with, and then we're going to map in the company name, or not the company name, but the case study name. So case study company, response, put nice work. Good work on that. Whatever you want to put in there. And then we could go into, we help software companies grow. We help software companies generate, 30 leads a month on a performance basis. Actually, no, let me see. We work with software companies to help you land more clients and then put in the case study name. So case study company. Actually, this might be a little bit better. We work with software companies to help you land more clients I made you a quick video showing you how we could generate 3 new clients within the next 60 days on a performance basis. Now, of course, you can change this however you want. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but you kind of get the point. Can I send over the video? Can I send the video? Boom. All right, and then we put the subject, I don't know, we might put Leadify X, and then the company name. The case study company, sorry, not case study company. Company normalization, response. Okay, cool. And then we're just going to go save, and again, this doesn't matter too much, but we can save and run 10 rows. Like, it's not going to charge you anything. It's just, I'm not sure why they actually have that UI. But so now I want to show you what this actually looks like. So you can see here, hi Kevin. Hi Kevin, we work with software companies to help you land more clients like Brotia Chemicals. I made you a quick video showing you how we could generate 3 new clients within the next 60 days on a performance basis. Can I send the video over? And then here we've got Leadify X B2Ys, right, and the company name. So now you can see what the copy looks like, right? So for example, here we could see another one where we work with software companies to help you land more clients like Edica. I made you a quick video, and this is one of their case studies. Now, one thing I would say is there might be some errors. So when I say some errors, I think there was one that I saw, company XYZ. Interesting. So why has it said that? Response company XYZ. Yeah, so here, for example, it might say, we work with software companies to help you land more clients like company XYZ. Now, obviously, this would be incorrect. So we'd want to go in and we want to maybe double check this particular prompt. We might want to tweak things. We might want to change things, but overall, you can see out of the leads that we do have. So if I just filter for final valid emails, work email is not empty, right? If I filter for these companies and I just filter for the case study company has results. Cool. So we can see here, out of 15 results, again, this is just 15. You could run this for the entire list. Once it's built and once you're happy with the initial 10 to 50, you can run this for thousands of companies and it would output the same type of thing. There's only one that I can see that is incorrect, right? So we might want to go in and just tweak something, but on average, you might get a 95% hit rate, which if you're happy with that, then you can run that. So now that we've got that, we've got a list of companies. We filtered them out, or I've shown you how to filter them out, how to find their email addresses, how to kind of get started with Clay. And then we've also got now the copy, and we've got some AI personalization / relevance. And this is one is quite cool because it looks like you've obviously taken time to research the company and what case studies they have on their website. And then we've got a good offer, and we've got the email copy. The final step here is to now push this to your sending platform. So we can go to add enrichment, and we can go to instantly, for example, which is what we use. And we can go add lead to campaign. And now you connect your API key from instantly. Again, this is super simple. Just go on instantly, go to the settings, find the API key there. And then we can connect this to one of the campaigns. You'll need to set up the campaign on instantly first. And then we can map the columns. So we go first name, last name, the company name. We want to just make sure that this isn't the original company name, but the formatted company name. So the company normalization response. And then we can also add in the custom variables. So we can go case study and then map this to the case study column. So case study company, and go in here. We can add in the domain. Go domain, company domain, add in the LinkedIn, and we can map the LinkedIn profile, and so on and so forth. And so once we have this, obviously you want to add the campaign, but I'm not going to do that for this video. You would then just quite literally click save and run all the rows. And then now this would be pushed into instantly so that you can start sending to these companies. And I'm going to say as simple as that. Obviously that was quite a lot, and we've gone through quite a bit of stuff here. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but as you can see, when you're building these out like live and walking through, I wanted to keep in some of the bits or technical errors that you might come across and how to potentially fix them. So what we've done here, just to recap, we've built a list of companies, built a list of people within Clay's find people function. So to be able to have an initial list of potential prospects to reach out to. We've then found their email addresses, validated their email addresses. We've then filtered for companies using AI that are specifically B2B and they are SaaS companies. So once we know that they are a B2B SaaS company and they are our target, then we can find their case study on their website using AI. Once we have a case study on their website, we can then push that into the copy. And once we have that in the copy, we can then push that to instantly. And again, once it's built, you can then add leads from Apollo, from SalesNav, or go back to Clay and add more leads, or open up your search criteria. So instead of, we had 242 that we started with, I only ran 50 rows, but we had 242 that we started with. You could open that up a little bit to get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, and it would work exactly the same. I just wanted to show you an example of what this looks like step by step. So hopefully this has been useful, and hopefully this has shown you how to get started with Clay without using Clay credits, and how to save on Clay credits as well, and build your first campaign using a little bit of AI personalization, AI relevance, AI research, filtering things out, and finding email addresses. This is, I would say, relatively entry-level stuff on how to kind of get started in Clay and just kind of build a very basic campaign. If you're looking to learn more, or how we could potentially help you build these kinds of systems and do it for you in your business, then feel free to book in a call. Or if you're looking for a consultation from myself, then feel free, again, to book in a call. All the links are in the description. And yeah, hopefully this has been useful. I will see you in the next one. Cheers.